Hey there, and welcome to the Event Crushed podcast. Each week, we'll be chatting about all things wedding industry, entrepreneurship, and how to crush it in life and business. I'm so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. Hey there, and welcome back to the Event Crushed podcast. And if you are new here, this is your host, Becky, and I am a wedding planner based here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And if you ever want to learn a little bit more about me, you can head to episode 1, The Girl Behind the Podcast. And that's just a little bit of a deep dive into who I am and why I started this podcast back in May of last year. Well, today I get to talk about two of my very favorite things, which is super exciting for me. Last month, we visited one of my very favorite places in the world. And if you know me at all, you know that that place is Disneyland. And I have been going to Disneyland ever since I was a kid. We went many, many times growing up. And I've never had an experience there that was not magical. It really is such an incredible place, and I just grew up loving it. And now that I have kids, I have been able to experience it through the eyes of my own children, and that just adds a whole other level of magic to it all, as you can imagine. So you may be wondering why the heck I'm talking about Disneyland, but if there's one thing that Disney does really, really well, it's creating an immersive experience for guests from the second that you walk through the gate. If you are familiar with Disneyland, you know there's a sign right above the entrance walkway when you come in, and it says, "Leaving behind today and entering the worlds of yesterday, tomorrow, and fantasy." And that is really what you get when you walk in, from the smiling faces of cast members to the sweet smells that are piped into the parks, to the incredible parades and fireworks and all the different things that just delight our eyes and ears. There is magic around every single corner. Not to mention the delicious seasonal treats, the drinks, the characters, and their costumes. There's just so much, and I could really go on and on and on. So what I want to talk about today is how we can take what Disney does best and how can we apply those things to our own businesses. People who love Disney, and I know that not everybody is a Disney person, and that's okay. If you are not a Disney person, there's no shade towards you. I still hope that you will give this episode a listen, and I think there will be some great takeaways for you, regardless of if you are a Disney nerd like I am. But if you know people who love Disney, like they really love Disney, they are devoted to it. And even though it's so expensive to go to the parks, and the prices we could say are a little excessive and they seem to increase every single year, the people who love Disney are willing to pay whatever price. And they're going to keep going back no matter what, because they are devoted to the company and because they consistently have an incredible experience in the parks. And don't we want our couples and clients to feel the same way about us, that they're willing to pay for our services no matter what the cost? Because they can clearly see the value that we're providing and that we are bringing to them. It's like a no-brainer. It's like, yes, take my money. I want what you have to offer. And so I think we all want that. And that's what Disneyland has. And Disney, the Disney Corporation, Disney World, all the different parks, that's what they do best. And so I've kind of been on a deep dive ever since we got back from our most recent Disneyland trip this past December, about a month ago. And I've just been wanting to learn as much as I can about how Disney runs their parks and how they have perfected this art of customer service and guest experience. And so I recently listened to an audiobook called Creating Magic by Cockerall. And it's a leadership book, actually, based on his many years of experience working as the executive VP of operations at Disney World. And I've also started reading another one called Be Our Guest by the Disney Institute. And I highly recommend both of these books. I'll be sure to include them in the show notes. And I have a whole list of other ones that I will be reading soon too. So I'll include those just in case if this is a topic that interests you. There's a lot more where that comes from that you can do your own research and do your own deep dive like I did, because I just think it's so fascinating. And I've always been a really big fan of Walt Disney. I know that he was not a perfect person and he had a lot of flaws, but when I look around at Disneyland and I see this thing that he built from nothing, it blows me away. And I just think it is incredible. So I love learning about Walt Disney and the parks and the Disney Imagineers and just all of that. So the first thing that I want to start with that I took away from these books is the idea of starting with a vision for your company. In the Be Our Guest book, we learn that Disney's commitment to guest satisfaction starts with its overarching mission, which is to create happiness, which I love. Every decision and interaction within the company is guided by this clear and compelling vision. So before you can begin giving exceptional client experiences, you need to define your vision for your company first. And then once a vision is established, you can use it as a compass for every interaction. From the initial consults to the wedding day itself, you're ensuring that your services embody the spirit of your mission. If your vision as a wedding planner is all about creating stress-free experiences for your couples, then you would want to focus on clear communication, proactive planning, and seamless execution. So no matter if you're a planner or a photographer or whatever kind of wedding pro you might be, you're going to want to spend some time thinking about your vision for your company and the experience that you are wanting to provide for couples. And maybe you did that in the beginning when you first started, but maybe, time has gone on, years have gone by, and your vision has changed. Or maybe you realize I need to get back to that original heart behind my company and the vision that I had in the beginning. Well, now's a great time to redefine that vision and to get back to it. So that's kind of our starting point. That's our foundation, is having that vision in place. And then all the other pieces will fall into place when we have that solid foundation. So I'm now going to jump into 5 kind of key elements of Disney's magic and what we can take away from them. So the first one is attention to detail. If you have ever been into a Disney park, then you know that every element is intentional, from the landscaping to the cast member outfits and the costumes to the music and just everything. If you've been at the holidays, then you know even how much more magical it is and everything they do to completely transform the park into a Christmas wonderland at holidays or at Halloween. Everything's decorated with Halloween. So one of the best examples of attention to detail that I could think of is the lines. Guests are often waiting 30 minutes, 60 minutes or more for the really popular rides, but Disney, obviously they knew that was going to happen and they knew that kids would get bored. So they were really intentional with the lines and how to create an experience out of the lines and not just a boring, room that you're standing in, but there's things to look at, there's things to do, there's things to hold your attention. And I think they've gotten a lot better at this over the years, because if you compare kind of the earlier rides to the more recent rides, like Rise of the Resistance, that line is extremely immersive. The ride starts while you're in line and you're moving through, but then you're going from room to room and you're interacting with stormtroopers and different Star Wars characters. And you're actually flying on a ship before you even get to the ride itself. So it's very immersive. And it's just an example of a attention to detail that Disneyland and the Disney parks have taken really seriously, because it increases the guest experience exponentially. Another example I wanted to mention about the parks is, I don't know if you've ever noticed garbage on the ground at Disneyland or Disney World, or an overflowing garbage can, but I'm guessing not, because they work really, really hard to train their cast members to pick up trash as soon as they notice it. And they also have garbage cans placed roughly every 20 feet at the park because they figured out that it takes a kid about 20 feet to unwrap like a candy bar. And so then every 20 feet, they have placed garbage cans. So people have a place to throw their wrappers and their garbage rather than just throwing it onto the road. But if something does make it onto the ground, they pick it up immediately. So you will rarely ever see garbage at Disneyland out and about. And while we may not be dealing with physical garbage, the principle stands. How can we make sure that our systems and our processes are as smooth and seamless as possible for our clients? What garbage could be removed from your process to make the experience more enjoyable for your couples? So it's a great idea to kind of do an audit on your business systems and kind of go through the experience as a potential client and see if there's any garbage, any things that can be removed to just make it a more enjoyable experience. Okay, so that was attention to detail. The next one, number 2, is personalization. And Disney's cast members often go out of their way to create personalized moments and experiences for guests. Some examples that I read in Lee Cockerall's book, the Creating Magic book, he shared a story about a child who lost their tooth at Disneyland, but then proceeded to actually lose the tooth. And they were super sad about it. So one of the cast members found out about this, and they actually went to one of the departments where they make things, and they made a tiny tooth that looked like a little child's tooth. And then they brought it to this child, and they said that it was a gift from Mickey Mouse. And so because the kid wanted to be able to get money from the tooth fairy, and so they got the tooth back. And I'm sure the parents were just blown away that they went through so much trouble to make that kid's day. Another one of the stories was about a guest that lost their wedding ring at one of the restaurants. And when this got around to the cast members, they worked to find the ring and to return it to the owner. And just generally, cast members go out of their way to remember small details about guests, such as a child's favorite Disney character, and then they just use this knowledge to surprise and delight them later during the stay. So how can we use that in our businesses? There are so many ways that we can add a personal touch to our client experiences through remembering details that our couples tell us, creating surprises. So basically surprising and delighting them. Some examples are remembering their, if it comes up in conversation and they tell you where their favorite date night spot is, or maybe you actually collect that information on your, it's called a client profile, where we collect a bunch of details about our couple that helps us to serve them better. So we actually ask them, like, where is your favorite date night spot? But so maybe you have that, or maybe it just comes up in conversation, and then you can get them a gift card and just surprise them with it and just say, hey, go have a date night on me, take a break from wedding planning, and just go have a nice time. Like, I think that's such a fantastic idea. You could take note of a certain drink that they love, that they've mentioned, or that you've seen them order before. And then when you have your next meeting, if it's in person, you could have that drink like ready to go waiting for them. And just generally taking note of any special details relating to a loved one. Maybe you're aware that the bride's father had passed away and his birthday is coming up. So you know that that's going to be a really rough time for her. And so you send her a coffee or send her flowers with a note that just lets her know that you're thinking about her and her family during this difficult time. So this is just a few examples. There's so many things that you could do to really wow your clients and make them feel special, and that everybody wants to feel special. Everybody wants to feel loved. I think anytime we can go out of our ways to make our couples and our clients feel that way, that's going to stick with them. All right. So that was number 2, personalization. And we're moving on to number 3, which is exceeding expectations. I really don't think that it is enough anymore to just meet expectations or just provide the standard service, because as the market saturation increases, which we have all seen in recent years, you really need to be setting yourself apart. And so one way to do that is by consistently exceeding your couple's expectations. This will lead to glowing reviews. This will lead to referrals to their family and their friends. So if you are wanting to create incredible experiences for your clients that turn them into raving fans, and who doesn't want to do that? Some ways that I wanted to mention are having a really seamless booking process. So that's from the time that a couple lands on your website to completing your inquiry form, to scheduling a consult with you, to getting the proposal, to getting the contract signed, invoice paid. Everything is just easy and seamless, and you are just making it just easy for them. They're not having to go through any more trouble than they would need to. It's just smooth and they're enjoying that process. That's how it should be. There should be no pain in the booking process. And if you find any touch points in that process that you feel like are causing troubles, then it's a great time to go through and see what you can do about that. How can you make it better? How can you make it smoother? So then, of course, we're going to have a seamless booking process, and then we're going to move right into a seamless onboarding process. So getting your clients hooked up with whatever CRM that you use, getting them, if you're a planner, connected to their online planning portal or their planning suite, sending your onboarding email with, all the details that they need, all the next steps, providing, the information that they need to feel covered and to feel like you have their back and you're sharing the next steps and there's no questions. The last thing that you want is for them to come back to you with a whole bunch of questions. You want to be answering those questions before they're ever asked. And just having regular touch points and check-ins throughout the planning process, even if you are a vendor that isn't really going to be working with them until closer to the wedding day, like a photographer, for example. If you book the couple a year out and then you do not speak to them or have any kind of a touch point for like 9 months, that's going to feel weird to them. They're going to be like, oh, do I still have my photographer? Are they booked? Are we good? They're going to start sending you emails, just like checking in to make sure everything's good. And so it's important that even if we're not a planner that's, working through the process with a couple, we still need to be having regular touch points and checking in and making sure our couples are good and offering, if they need help, if there's anything we can be doing to make the process less stressful for them, offer that to them. So then from there, just generally, you want to be responding quickly to communication. Like that should be a given, but I know as someone who works with vendors regularly, I know that they're not all responding super quickly to their couples' communications. And so I would say that's something that we really want to work on, because that can make it or break it sometimes. The communication leading up to the wedding day, no matter how amazing you do on the wedding day, no matter how beautiful the video is that you give to the couple, or the photos that you take of the couple, or the flowers that you design for the couple, no matter how amazing those things are, if your communication leading up to the wedding was not excellent, they're going to remember that. And it's honestly going to taint things a bit. I hate to say it, but it's true. You need to be providing an excellent service from start to finish. It is not just the product that you provide, it is the whole entire experience. And so I just think that communication is a really big part of that. And unfortunately, I see a lot of room for improvement in that area. I know that we get busy and it's so hard to keep up on emails, but that shouldn't be the thing that's falling behind. Like that's got to be at the forefront and let other things fall behind if they have to. Not like personal life stuff. You know what I mean? But what other business related things could you put just after emails? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so then we touched on this a little bit before, but just surprising and delighting your couples with gifts. So this could be, I love to, on around Valentine's Day, I send my couples like a digital Starbucks card and I say, hey, have a coffee date on me, take a break from planning and just enjoy, some time together. That's easy. You can do that over your phone or over email, and you don't have to have a physical gift card to mail them or give them. And there's like Starbucks everywhere. So that's a pretty easy one. I love working with companies like Sugar Wish. They send client gifts out. So they have these amazing cookies, and then now they do popcorn and they do wine and they do all types of treats and snacks. And I think they even have like dog treats and stuff now too. So no matter what type of couple you have, there's probably something on there that they would like. And it's just a really fun gifting opportunity. And there's options where the couple can even pick what they want. So instead of just sending them, whatever, they get to go in and they get to say, I want this type of cookie and this type of popcorn. And it's really fun. So those are just some examples of ways to surprise and delight our couples and kind of having regular gifting points. I mean, I know it really depends on the level of service and all of that, but I think regardless, like doing an onboarding gift is great, or doing a gift closer to the wedding date, whatever you do, just make sure it's consistent with all of your couples. And because nobody expects gifts, it's just a way to bring a smile to their face, which is what we always want to do. So then after the wedding, obviously we're providing an amazing experience on the wedding day itself. That's a given. But after the wedding is over, you want to make sure that you also have a seamless offboarding experience. I think a lot of people are just like, okay, here's your photos, or okay, we planned your wedding, have a nice life. But making sure that we have a good process for how we handle the transition away from our services is really important, because we don't want to leave, after everything that we did, after all the hard work that we put in, we don't want to leave a bad taste in our clients' mouths. So making sure that we're following up with them, asking for feedback, seeing if there's, anything we can do, and making sure that they're happy at the end of the day. And then after they are no longer your clients, like there are still things that we can be doing to just, again, provide that exceptional experience. Like we can be sending a card on their anniversary, on their 1-year anniversary, send them a handwritten card wishing them well and that you hope they have an amazing anniversary. Other specific examples, if you're a photographer, getting the sneak peeks to your clients as soon as possible, especially if that's something that they're expecting. But if they're not expecting that, that's one way to just go above and beyond, is by providing the sneak peeks like the day after the wedding. That's going to blow them away. And if you're a planner, you could include a special surprise for your couple at the wedding, just, something small. If you know that there's something they wanted to incorporate but didn't end up being able to do it due to budget, and you're able to do like a very small scale version of that for them, that's gonna blow their minds. Like they will be so excited. Or if you just heard them in conversation mention something, if you can just like tuck that away, make a note about it, and then bring it back to their wedding day and incorporate it somehow, I think that would go over very well with them. So just be thinking about what you can do, and always be listening to your clients. When they're just talking about normal everyday things, there's so much that we can pick up on that we could then use to surprise and delight them. All right, so that was number 3, exceeding expectations. And now we are moving on to number 4 out of 5, which is a culture of excellence. So this is going to be relevant to you whether you have a team or not, but we are all a team on a wedding day, right? Disney has worked really hard to create an incredible company culture that their cast members are really proud to be a part of. So if you do have a team, are your associate planners or associate photographers, your assistants, your interns, whatever kind of a team that you have, are they proud to be a part of your company? What kind of training are they undergoing? And how can you ensure that they are reflecting your company's values? Disney believes in empowering their cast members to make decisions that align with their vision. Back to that first point about creating our vision, then they're, creating this culture of employees, or cast members, as they call them, that all have that same vision and that are wanting to uphold that across the company. And they also, they give them freedom to solve problems and create magical moments for guests just on their own. So in the same way, we don't want to be micromanaging. We want to be obviously training really well and then trusting our team to go out there and to kick butt. The Disney Institute underscores the importance of a strong organizational culture where everyone from the frontline employees to leadership is aligned with the company's service principles. So again, think back to your values and your principles as a company, and how can you make sure that everybody across your company is on the same page and is upholding those same values. Regardless of if you have a team or not, the vendors on the wedding day are your team, right? Like we are all on the team together, bringing this incredible experience to our couples and our clients. And it's important to create a culture of camaraderie before the wedding day even arrives. Like we cannot be saving this for the wedding day to then come together. This needs to be happening well in advance through communication leading up to the wedding day. Everyone should feel included in their specific role in making the wedding day happen and should be valued, by each part of the team, because no type of wedding pro is better or more important than the other. We all have a very specific role to play. And if one of us isn't there, the whole wedding day can fall apart. If the officiant isn't there, the couple can't get married. If the photographer isn't there, there's nobody to capture the memories of the day. If the planner isn't there, it's gonna turn into chaos. If the DJ isn't there or the MC, there's nobody to guide the guests through the day. And then, of course, to have an epic dance party later. If the caterer isn't there, there's no amazing food to eat. I mean, every single vendor has such an important role to play. And we would never want to downplay any other, because it doesn't matter what we do, how much we charge. Like we are all extremely valuable to the success of our couples' wedding days. And so just that whole concept of working together on the wedding day to bring everything to fruition and helping our couples just have the best day of their lives. Okay, so that was a culture of excellence. And now we're moving on to the final point, which is continuous improvement. And I really love this. This is something I also feel very strongly about. And so Disney constantly evaluates and evolves its service standards. So they're not just out here like, yeah, we have it all figured out, everything's great, and we're just going to stay here forever. Like they're constantly getting and requesting feedback from guests and their own cast members and their own leadership. And they use that to refine their processes, ensuring that the company remains at the forefront of customer service, which they absolutely are. This was talked about in length in Lee Cockerall's book, and I think it's incredible that they are just constantly asking for this advice on how they can be improving, and that they are never willing to just settle and think, because obviously they have improved so much since Disneyland opened in the 50s. They've come such a long way, and they could be like, yep, we've made it. We are the pinnacle of success. If you want to know about customer service, come talk to us, which they do. And that is the Disney Institute. And they teach leadership for businesses of how to basically replicate what they do. But they're not just willing to stop or to settle with where they are at. They are always wanting to improve, which I can totally relate with. So how can you apply this to your business? You can ask for feedback during and after the planning process. You do not have to wait until the wedding is over to ask for feedback from your clients. You can reach out during the process and just say, hey, just checking in with you. I wanted to make sure that you are enjoying working together so far. And if there's ever anything that I can be doing better to serve you, please do let me know. There's no reason we can't do that. And I know it's hard to ask for feedback because we might be worried or nervous that they're going to say something negative, or that they're going to say, well, yeah, you really dropped the ball with that one thing, or who knows. So it can be scary to ask for feedback, but it is so worth it, because maybe they do mention something. Maybe it's small, but maybe you didn't even realize, and it makes you consider, future interactions and how you can make it even better for your couples. And it's just important to make sure that our couples know that they can always come to us with any, questions or with any feedback along the way that they want to share with us. If we avoid asking for feedback after the wedding or at all, during the process, if we avoid that altogether, then we will never know if there's anything that we could have done better. And if we never know that, then we'll never be able to improve. So it is really important to get this feedback from our clients. And it kind of does involve putting your guard down a little bit, and it does open yourself up for potential negative feedback. But that's better than no feedback and just like assuming that everything you're doing is great and amazing, but you don't actually know that. So it is important to just, be bold and ask for that feedback. Okay, so that was my 5 key points that I wanted to touch on, but I have a few more things I wanted to share with you that I gleaned from these 2 books. And some of these I just think are super interesting. And so I just wonder if there's something we could take away from these for our own businesses. So hopefully these inspire you. So the first one, I think there's 5 of these too. But these will be quicker. The first one is the 10-5 rule. And if you don't know what that is, Disney cast members are trained to smile at guests within 10 feet and to greet them within 5 feet. So this just makes me think of a wedding day. Are we making sure that we're smiling at everybody that's within 10 feet of us? And then are we greeting anybody that's in 5 feet of us? I mean, I like to think that I am, but I'm going to be checking myself this summer and making sure that I am living up to that standard. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I personally want to take any standard that Disneyland has, and I just want to crush that in my own business and my own working with my wedding clients and just absolutely be above or beyond what they're doing there. Okay, the next one, cast members are trained never to say, I don't know. If they don't have an answer, they will go and find someone who does, or they'll follow up quickly as soon as they have an answer. So I think this is great. I love this. I think, if somebody comes up to us at a wedding and asks us a question that we don't have the answer to, I think a really great response is, let me find that out for you, and then go find the appropriate vendor or the appropriate person, and then make sure to get back to that person as quickly as possible. I know that I get so many random questions from guests, from family. I don't always have the answer. And maybe a lot of times I feel like it's for the caterer or another vendor. And so I just race to get to that person as quickly as I can, get an answer. And then I also make sure to make note of what the guest is wearing so that I can find them, or I'll make note of what table they're sitting at. Or I'll even say to them, where can I find you? Where will you be? Because I would hate to lose them, especially if it's a big wedding and I can't find them to go give them the answer to the question. So make sure you know where they're going to be or how to locate them. Okay, the third one is that cast members are on stage whenever they're in view of guests. That's why they call them cast members, because they're all a part of the show. And so when they're out in the parks and in view of guests, they are on stage. And so they need to be maintaining professionalism and avoiding distractions, for example, eating or texting. So I just think about this again, too, in the context of a wedding day. I don't ever want to be seen on my phone, texting. There are times I have been on my phone, and it's for various reasons, looking at, some information related to the wedding, taking photos, of course, or videos, looking things up. I might need to look up a vendor number. There's all kinds of reasons I might be on my phone, but I really try hard to not be texting or anything like that. And we also try, unless we're seated with the guests, obviously we're going to be eating in front of the guests. But if we're not eating with the guests, then I try to make sure that we are out of sight when that is happening, and that when we are in sight of guests, that we are professional, that we have a good body language. You never want to be standing with your arms crossed at a wedding day. You want to have open body posture because you want to be approachable, and you want to be somebody that guests or family or the couple feels comfortable going up to. And crossing your arms really tells people kind of leave me alone. And so you would never want to do that at a wedding. So just having good body language and posture and all of that good stuff when you are on a wedding day, because it is in a way like a show. I know we don't want to admit it or think that it's for show, but in the sense of we are on and we need to be presentable at all times. I do think that is important, and I take it very seriously. All right, I have two more. Cast members are trained to point with two fingers or an open hand to avoid offending guests, because in some cultures, a single finger point is considered rude. And so we never know if there's going to be guests from other cultures at weddings, or we probably do know in advance, but it's just a good rule of thumb to not do a single finger point. And that is something I have not always done. And so I think that's really important. And I think if we can all kind of take that into consideration, or any other cultural things that could be seen as offensive, and making sure that we're not doing those things on wedding days, of course, that is important. And then the last one is that cast members use the HEARD model for addressing guest complaints. And I just think this is really interesting. So this is what HEARD means. It's an acronym, HEARD. The H is for hear the concern. The E is for empathize with their feelings. The A is for apologize sincerely. The R is for resolve the issue promptly. The D is for diagnose the cause to prevent future issues. So I think if you have issues that arise on wedding day, whether it's your fault or not, I think this is a great approach. I know people have mixed feelings on like apologizing for something that wasn't necessarily your fault. And I think that there is still a way that you can apologize where it's not like you're not accepting blame. You can be sorry that something happened. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of let's say like the wedding cake melted in the hot sun or something, and you had told the couple to get a tent or to put it inside, but they didn't want to. They wanted it outside in this spot, and then it ended up being a hot day and their cake melted. It's like, okay, I guess that's not your fault. Maybe should have fought a little harder to not have the cake out in the sun, but you can apologize to the couple and say, I'm so sorry that your cake melted or that your cake fell over, and then work to resolve the issue. So, what does that look like? Are we calling another baker and getting a last minute cake here? Are we going to Safeway and grabbing, what are we doing? And then I love the last one, diagnose the cause to prevent future issues. So what did you learn from that? That's like taking whatever you learn at events, whatever didn't go right, because as we know, events rarely go perfectly to plan. There's usually some little hiccups in there. Hopefully they're small, but there's usually something that comes up. And so of those things, what can you learn from that? And what can you take and make sure it doesn't happen next time? So with this silly cake situation that I mentioned, once you experience that, you're probably not ever going to let a couple have a cake out in the hot sun, even if they're adamant about it. You could just explain the situation that happened to you and say, hey, I once had this couple and they really wanted their cake outside, and it ended up being a super hot day. And then it got so hot, it melted and toppled over, and it was a whole mess. I feel like a couple, after hearing that story, is going to be like, okay, whatever you say, we'll do it inside, or we'll make sure we have a tent, what have you. So just diagnosing it and then making sure those same mistakes, whether it's your fault or not, making sure those same things don't happen again for future couples. I just think that is fantastic. And then the first ones, hearing it and empathizing with it. Again, whether it's your fault or not, like we can empathize with people and we can understand, like if it rains on your wedding day and that really bums you out, like empathize with them. You don't control the weather. It's not your fault that it's raining. And maybe you have a great backup plan, but they really wanted these golden hour outdoor portraits and now they can't. So empathize with them and understand how their day is looking different than they thought it was going to. And yes, that's hard, but here's what we're going to do to make it so that you still have a fabulous day. Okay, so in conclusion of this very long solo episode, thank you for sticking with me. The 5 key lessons that wedding pros can learn from the magic of Disney, they were attention to detail, personalization, exceeding expectations, a culture of excellence, and then continuous improvement. So after listening to all this, I think it would be great to just reflect on your client experience journey that you are providing for your couples, and what is one thing you could do to make it even more magical? What is one thing you could do to make it more memorable and to just provide an exceptional experience for your couples? I just really never started my business to be mediocre or to be like a good wedding planner. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to be a great wedding planner. I wanted to be the best wedding planner that I could be. And we're constantly working at it, right? We're always working to better ourselves and our businesses. And if you're listening to this episode, I think that is probably right in line with where you are at too, because you're listening to podcasts to grow your knowledge and to grow your business. So what is one thing that you could do to make it more magical? I don't want you to feel like you need to completely revamp your whole entire process of working with couples, but just start with one thing you could do, whether that is it could be related to your onboarding process. It could be related to your offboarding process or the wedding day itself, like those tips I just gave for the actual event day, any of those. What's one thing? And I want to leave you with a quote from Walt Disney himself. He said, "Whatever you do, do it well. Do it so well that when people see you do it, they will want to come back and see you do it again. And they'll want to bring others to show them how well you do what you do." So I think that's a great quote that we can just feel encouraged and inspired as we're heading into, we're getting close now to the second month of 2025, which is pretty wild. So I just want to thank you for listening to this episode. I know it was a long one. If you learned anything or if you have any takeaways, I would love to hear from you. You can shoot us a message over on Instagram at eventcrushed, eventcrush.ed, or also my main account, which is just eventcrush, is great too. All right. Well, that is what I have for you today, my friends. So we'll see you back here again next Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I hope you found value in this episode, and if you did, please consider sharing it with a wedding industry friend. We also hope you'll consider leaving a rating or review for the show to help other listeners find it. This podcast is edited and produced by Ace Sound Design. If you're looking to elevate your audio experience, their info can be found in the show description. As always, thank you for listening, and please connect with us on Instagram if you haven't already. Now get out there and crush it.